Delivery fee caps, middle mile delivery, and ghost kitchens in Walmart. That's all ahead in this week's Monday Minute. Thanks again for joining us. We are now doing this on Mondays. It's the same game, but a different name. Meredith, we've got 5 big headlines from the previous week and a number of questions to ask each other. Well, New York City announced a permanent cap on delivery commissions last week. Do caps on delivery commissions make sense? And how do you think this whole thing's going to play out?
Yeah, so, restaurants have long said that delivery commissions are way too high. I think when you think about all of the things that a platform offers in terms of access to technology, customer acquisition, and the logistics networks, it sort of makes sense that it costs that much. And of course, when you look at all of these third-party delivery companies, very few of them are making money at the total enterprise level, though they might be for specific customer cohorts or specific geographies. So there's a clear tension between the restaurants and the platforms that are working with them. It's interesting to see the government interfere and say that they're going to play a role in saying what those commissions should be. And that to me represents how important restaurants are in our local economies. We saw this over the last year with COVID when so many of them shut down and so many servers and cooks and other employees in restaurants were out of work. It really, really affected our economy. Restaurants are the second largest private employer in the United States when taken as a whole. And as we go through this disruption, I think that we have to figure out a way for all parties to work together in an economically viable way to serve what the consumer wants, which is convenience and delivery. So got one for you. Ghost Kitchen Brands announced a partnership with Walmart here in the US. They've been in Canada with them for a while and announced their first location in the US. What are we to make of this?
Yeah, this actually isn't a huge surprise to me at all. For all intents and purposes, ghost kitchens are like a virtual food hall. Think about the inefficiencies, Meredith. The food hall with 10 different brand facings, at least 20 different menu boards, probably more, 10 different sets of frontline staff and back of house staff. And now you can use a digital interface with your customers and have those various brands channeled through that interface or through a phone, for example. It's like the customer's own smartphone. You can have one set of staff and have a fully optimized kitchen for servicing both on-premise and off-premise orders. Now, George Cotas's Ghost Kitchen Brands are launching, I think, in Rochester, New York, in a Walmart. And they've got, I think, 23 different brands, things like Big Chicken, Costa Coffee, Dickie's Barbecue, Lola's Latin Food, and Wow Bao, names that we recognize in our space. And I think this is really one of the things that is exciting everyone right now, because Walmart might be one of the first out there doing it, but there are absolutely others doing it. Kitchen United, for example, they're working with Westfield Malls. And of course, they're working recently. They announced their relationship with Kroger. So I think what we'll start to see is everything about the consumer's desire for more choice and variety now coming to a Walmart or any other big box retailer without now having to cross across the parking lot or walk to the other side of the mall, if you will. Okay, so question 3, Meredith. Grubhub used to be the #1 marketplace and dominated cities such as New York and Chicago. And now Business Insider last week told us that they are losing ground to Doordash. So does Grubhub face an uncertain future?
Yeah, this is a tricky one, right? Grubhub was founded in Chicago. They bought Seamless in New York. Those are their core markets. They have awesome density, so the network economics should be better there than anywhere else. But here's the thing about network economics. It's a virtuous cycle as you're adding users, adding restaurants, and getting better and better and better density. It's a doom loop when it goes the other way. And as you start to lose share, you start to lose the density that makes the network work. So if they don't turn it around quickly, it could be very, very bad for them. And as ever, I think that turning it around is about going back to the consumer and making that experience frictionless and easy to use. So autonomous middle market vehicle company Gatik got $85 million in their Series B. What, if anything, does this mean for the restaurant industry? Is there opportunity for them in middle mile delivery?
This is probably a little left field, isn't it? It's people might be going, what is middle mile?
What is a middle mile?
Yeah. The first thing, of course, is everyone talks about last mile, and that still represents a huge challenge, right? Being able to figure out not just the last mile, but honestly, the last 10 feet as well, as we talk about drones and autonomous vehicles. Middle mile is more of a B2B relationship, where the route that a vehicle or an autonomous vehicle that travels between perhaps a warehouse and the other business is basically static. It does the same route each and every time. And I think this is an interesting one for us to think about, because there are companies out there like All Day Kitchens, for example, that create a hub and spoke model whereby they prepare most of the food in a central facility and then send it out to the spoke part of their model where the food is finished, ready for drivers to pick up from those locations. So for places like that, there absolutely could be a role here. There's also an angle for me thinking about food suppliers, or even just the suppliers to restaurants generally. As we increase the amount of off-premise food that's going out of restaurants, the need for space for things like packaging increase too. And so I think you'll find that even folks that are trying to supply restaurants with more materials, restaurants that are trying to optimize their space, again, in ghost kitchens where perhaps space is limited, are going to find the opportunity of being able to utilize this technology. It's probably not going to come anytime soon, Meredith. I don't think it's going to be something we see flooding our doors with news over the course of the next few months, but I certainly see there being some opportunity in the future for sure. Okay, we have one last question, and we were both talking about this earlier this week. The National Restaurant Association have named a new interim CEO, Marvin Irby, I believe. And I also noticed that our local restaurant association close to us has closed down here. So change is afoot in the restaurant association world. What role does the Restaurant Association play for the industry today? And is it as important as it used to be?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's more important now than ever. I think the Restaurant Association is critical. It is not surprising that they're having some rocky times, especially our local one here, because the restaurants themselves are having rocky times, right? So I can totally see how those things are related, but their role has never been more important. And I think back to the part of the book where Zach Goldstein is talking about how platforms are extremely consolidated, right? In most industries, most countries, there's two winners. And restaurants are extremely fragmented. In the United States, at least before COVID, we had about 300,000 independent restaurants. And when you've got something that concentrated against something that fragmented, usually the concentrated players exert a lot more power over the ones that are all fragmented, right? And this goes back to the first question you asked about the governments in New York intervening to put in a delivery cap. And what's happening here is that these incredibly fragmented independent restaurants, they need a single voice who can speak as a unified whole for all of them on the things that matter to each one of them. So I think there's never been a more important time for the NRA. I'm very excited to see what their new president and CEO does, and how they carry the industry forward, because there is so much change afoot.
Great stuff. Well, look, thank you everyone for listening. As ever, we're really intrigued about the questions that you have for us, any comments that you have with regard to the items that we've spoken about today. Each of the links to the articles that we've been referring to are in the first comment below, so check those out. And again, if you have any particular questions, any themes that you think you'd like us to cover, then please let us know about those too. But other than that, enjoy your week.